this head coach might be on the market. This is not a part of the game, but it is about the Giants and Brian Daboll, because the Giants are the first team in the NFC eliminated from the playoffs. Not the Panthers, not the Saints, who had a losing streak when they were hurt. No, it is the New York Giants. They are the first team eliminated. They just cut Daniel Jones. They started Tommy DeVito. The locker room didn't like that too much. And then they started Drew Lock. A closer game against the Cowboys, but still lost to a Cowboys team that you can argue is just as bad, but clearly not, because the Giants have reached a different level. Do you think, just based on how the season is going, 7 losses in a row, that Brian Daboll, Joe Schoen, they should be fired after this year?
I can hear Joe Schoen being fired. Some very poor decisions made by the front office. There's a few of them in a row. Number one, I guess, is going to be tied. Saquon Barkley, Xavier McKinney, letting them walk, and signing Daniel Jones.
Do you think Saquon was a bad decision?
I don't.
Letting him walk?
I don't, because running back, especially when the team is as hurt as it is, it's not at the top of my list. But I look at Xavier McKinney, who could have been another star player on that defense, especially because how weak that secondary is and how much he held it down. And now you see what he's doing over here in Green Bay. I feel like he was the bigger loss, especially early on in the season when the defense really was doing a great job. You look at those 2 moves, well, 3, I guess, because again, X and Saquon walk. Then you have Daniel Jones re-signed. But then it goes back even further than that when you don't extend Daniel Jones or accept his 5th-year option, which forces you to give him $160 million, $80 million for these 2 years that he actually was signed on for. That's where I look at it. And then on top of it, you've done a poor job drafting. I just think that Joe Schoen definitely can be on the hot seat. Now, for Brian Daboll, it's hard for me to go out there and bluntly say fire him, because I do believe he is a good offensive mind. I believe that he has the makings to be a really good coach. In year 1, coach of the year, overachieves beyond everybody's wildest imagination, has this offense playing at a serviceable level, has a playoff win in his resume with New York. And like I said, overachieving, because I don't believe that there was strong talent on it. Poor offensive line, no weapons really outside of Saquon Barkley. And then you had Andrew Thomas. Whenever he was on the field, he was just like a small Band-Aid on a giant gash, because now when you see him when he's out these last couple of seasons, this is one of the worst offensive lines in the National Football League, excuse me. I don't think he's going to get... I don't want him to get fired, I should say, because he's not had a good team around him in his 3 years being the New York Giants head coach. However, I believe that he will be fired. I believe both will be fired at the end of the season, but more so, I'm putting blame on the GM. He's done a poor job building this roster, and he said some interesting things when you watch Hard Knocks that make you think, does this guy know what he's doing as the GM of the football Giants? But regardless, the Giants are a laughingstock. And it's just a horrible, horrible time for New York football, where both the Jets and the Giants stink. But again, these two teams find ways to be worse than one another every single week.
The Giants, they get shit on like when other games are going on. Like, how often do we hear about Saquon Barkley going to the Eagles, Xavier McKinney going to the Packers, about all of these guys leaving the Giants? And it feels like every time an Eagles game is on and Saquon rips off a big play, they're mentioning, how did the Giants let this guy go? Because I agree, in the grand scheme of things, I don't know how much it really mattered that Saquon left. I don't think with Saquon on this team, none of us think this is a playoff caliber team, or maybe they have one more win, if that. But the fact that he went to your division rival, he went to Philly, a great organization, a team we knew was going to win a ton of games, a team we knew was going to be in the playoffs, competing for the Super Bowl. It just makes it that much worse. And you also knew during the time when you were negotiating that Philly was the other contender for Saquon Barkley. The owner came in and said, I'll have a hard time sleeping if Saquon walks. So while I tend to agree that losing Saquon doesn't matter as much, the other part of me thinks, if I knew he was going to my division rival and was going to be on prime time and going to the playoffs and making me look worse, even though it might not be football-wise a worse move, but how I'm going to be perceived, how the owner's going to think of me, how the fans think of me, maybe that's a dumb way to run an organization, but you do that, plus you keep your best offensive player on your team. Maybe I would have made a one-time stand and be like, I'll keep Saquon Barkley around and I'll draft Malik Neighbors. So if things go left, next year we get a quarterback, they have a couple of weapons, because as great as Tyrone Tracy has been, he's not Saquon Barkley. To talk about though, just the firings of them, it does feel like Brian Daboll has worn off a little bit. It feels like that feel he had when he first got there, the new culture he set. You think about the first week against the Titans, he goes for 2, and it felt like it was a new time in New York. That vibe around him, not maybe the best words to put it, but
2022 Giants as a whole, the vibe was different.
It's just not there anymore. Like, he does not feel like he is resonating with the team as more. I don't feel like I see as much of a culture around this team, and it's really easy to have culture when you're winning. When you win these 1-score games and you're going for 2 and Daniel Jones looks good, it's very easy for us to say, look at the culture they're building, how much they're winning. When you're losing, it's hard to have that same culture, and it's hard to have that same belief in the head coach and the GM, because for the most part they've missed on the draft, right? You think about the Evan Neal, Kayvon, Jalen Hyatt draft. You think about, drafting Wan'Dale Robinson in the second round. This past draft was pretty good. Malik, Drew Phillips, Nubin. So I think that's probably his best draft so
Theo
far.
Johnson, Tracy.
Yeah, true. Tracy in round 5. So I think this is his best draft so far, but his previous 2 were mostly misses. And then in free agency as well, of course, you let some big guys walk, but they haven't really hit on a big free agent. I guess Illuminor, right, has been solid for them. Yeah. Even John Michael Schmitz is the 28th ranked center who had like a really promising rookie year. This year, not as great. So it definitely feels like what Brian Daboll had that first year has gone away. Of course, you lose Daniel Jones in year 2. Not that he's great, but a lot better than, Tommy DeVito and the other quarterbacks you had, at least for the most part. But I don't know if he survives this, because it feels like they're going to lose out for the remainder of the season. Maybe they get one more win, but with Drew Lock or Tommy DeVito, Drew Lock did not look that much better than DeVito on Thursday night. So I think it's going to be a tough hill for Daboll and Shane to climb. I feel like for the most part, the Mara family has been usually patient when it comes to head coaches. Like Joe Judge, I felt like stayed around maybe a bit too long. So maybe they give him one more year. But with the way the season went, coupled with how Hard Knocks went down, with all the free agents leaving, I wouldn't be surprised if they said, you know what, new head coach, new GM, new quarterback, clean slate, and let's try again.
Don't hate that.
This is why GMs don't want to be on Hard Knocks, because everything that Joe Shane did was public, and we all know the conversation that he had. We all know that John Mara went into his office and said that he's going to have a tough time sleeping if Saquon leaves. And then he let Saquon leave. So now you pissed off the owner. And I think Joe Shane, although he had a pretty good draft, this past draft, I don't know if he survives it just off the fact that John Mara is probably very pissed off at him for letting Saquon Barkley walk. What it comes down to is that if they get fired, they got fired for the Daniel Jones decision. That's what it comes down to. And it's unfortunate that they weren't able to pick their own quarterback, but they let a lot of talent walk out the building because of positional value. Running back, you have safety, 2 safeties with Julian Love and Xavier McKinney. And Julian Love's playing at a Pro Bowl level with the Seahawks right now. He was a Pro Bowler after he left the Giants. And then Leonard Williams, you traded him, and he's playing like one of the best interior defensive linemen in the league.
I didn't hate that trade at the time.
Yeah,
though.
but you
I didn't hate it either.
You got a second, right? That's what you got back for him?
Who'd you pick for?
Third, maybe?
The second.
I don't remember, actually. It might have been
you
a
don't
second.
hate it at the time, but they could have kept them, and they could have not traded for Brian Burns.
But it's also it's Dexy. You had Dexy too. It made it a little bit easier to move off.
They got
that sounds like an elite duo.
I don't disagree, but
Yeah.
Dexy just makes it. He's so good.
They
And
can't-
he's out
A
for the
third
season.
I remember when the trade happened, I feel like most of us said it was a good deal for the
Yeah,
Giants.
facts.
Not going to lie.
I thought it was great for the Seahawks because they needed defensive line
got the
help.
tape?
And yeah, I do.
need to
Leonard
see
Williams
that
is
tape.
Leonard Williams.
No, they got a 2024 second and 25 fifth.
All right, I thought it was the second.
Like for me, that I feel like they let too much talent walk out the building.
So who would the pick Stels before you get to quickly get
That second might have been Nubin. I don't know. Let me see.
Yeah.
2024 second?
Or honestly, maybe they traded up because in the second they took Nubin this year at pick 47, which wouldn't have been their pick because they picked 6, so they would have been like 39 or something. So Nubin probably was their second
What was
round
the
pick.
fourth round?
Because they did trade a pick for Brian Burns.
Or their fifth round pick.
Second round pick was Brian Burns. Correct.
Yeah.
Or they moved.
So
exactly.
it was Nubin. I'd rather have Leonard.
And the fifth they took Tyrone Tracy. I don't know. They could have traded up to take him at 166.
cook.
I don't remember.
But look, this draft was
joking.
good. That's why if this regime gets another year, I kind of do lean towards they should get another year. I don't think it's their fault that they couldn't make Daniel Jones a good quarterback. He's never been good.
Damn.
So why?
Never been good. It's crazy.
No, he hasn't.
2022.
He just
Never been
hasn't.
good, Mike.
Daniel Jones-
Yeah, that's
crazy.
nuts.
He was good
No,
for a year.
He was
One
never
year,
good.
He
One
was
year
a
is good.
serviceable quarterback.
Yes.
Yes.
Listen,
I'll give you 1 year.
they-
That's all I'm asking. You can't take 2022 away from
yeah,
me.
one year he's not.
Can't.
I mean, he wasn't that good
not.
that year.
He
either.
had nothing, man. Come on.
For me,
He had nothing.
For me, I just look at that and I'm like, that it's just unfair to say Brian Daboll, Joe Shane, you're out of a job because Daniel Jones is not a $40 million quarterback.
But you're the ones that gave him the
was
money.
a mistake.
But ownership wanted him too, for
Yeah,
sure.
ownership wanted him. They wanted to keep him. They had that emotional attachment because he was supposed to be the next Eli Manning. He was coached by Cutcliffe, who coached Eli. There was this whole emotional attachment to Daniel Jones from ownership, and I think it messed over this current regime. But this past draft, you have Tyler Nubin, Andrew Phillips, Tyrone Tracy, Theo Johnson, Malik Neighbors. I mean, did he not hit on almost every single pick?
cooked.
So for me, I'm just like, give this regime one more year. And I don't think that they should also put the pressure on them to take a quarterback either, because I think this quarterback draft class is very weak. You have to take the best available player, point blank, period. Even if they have to sign a bridge quarterback like Darnold for like a year, just to make it work, or, give him like a 2-3 year deal, just build out the roster and then let them work. That's it, but as of right now, the ownership is just so mad that I don't know if they're going to survive it. Malik Neighbors is calling out Brian Daboll, and Brian Daboll feels like he's
star
lost the
receiver.
locker room.
Malik, I respect that he feels comfortable enough to be this vocal. I think, to me, he doesn't have enough veteranship to be speaking this way.
Yeah, but I mean, he's like the best
what
player
vet
on
gonna
offense.
tell him that though?
And he also
That's
lost
what I'm
the locker
saying.
room.
I feel like he needs someone to come in, or at least
Just
there needs to be
offense?
some
Yeah,
level
who-
of veteran in
It's
the
him, though.
locker
It's
room.
him and
Like, it
Tyrone
should
Tracy.
be Dex. Like, Dex should be
That's
the
defense.
100%. But you don't think, and I'm thinking in an extreme sense here, you don't think Ray Lewis was talking to the offense still?
but that's
Ray
the thing.
Lewis.
You know what I mean? But like, Dex is one of the best defensive
But
players
they had
in the
Joe
league.
Flacco on the other side, so
I
But that's the
understand.
thing. Dexter Lawrence did call out Brian Daboll. They all stood by Daniel Jones. They thought he gave them the best chance to win, which he did.
Dexter also said they played soft when they lost, I think, a couple weeks ago.
And it's just, it's a move that the Giants needed to make, though. Like, I know the players are going to be upset about it. They want to win games, whatever. But they could not risk Daniel Jones getting hurt and then having him under contract next year. They could not risk that. So they just had to make a business decision. I think the mistake really was starting Tommy DeVito over Drew Lock. Maybe he had more staying in the locker room.
just think
You were
that
moved
was-
by Drew Lock against
Well,
the
Drew Lock
Cowboys?
is just much better than Tommy DeVito.
He looked pretty fucking terrible against the Cowboys.
Well, he's not a very good quarterback, but Tommy DeVito is a different level of bad.
What was I gonna say? I just look at that move of starting DeVito, and it just screamed, "I want the first pick. I want a tank."
And they have it right now.
Yeah.
But depending on how it goes, strength of schedule stuff, they could drop to number 3.
I mean, if they
Hunter,
get
man.
number 1 and Dion's like, I want to go to New York with Shador,
Turn me up.
I'm taking Travis Hunter.
you're taking Travis
I'm
Hunter.
taking Travis Hunter. You cannot listen. Travis Hunter's the number 1 pick in this class.
Well,
like it's
what
not even close.
Jordan Schultz said is that he thinks Shador and Travis can be 1 and 2.
Would be moving.
And I don't know which way.
I
but
would
either way.
no, we know which way. It's Travis 1, whoever else is 2. That would be a movie. That would be fire. I would love that for Dion because he considers both of them. Well, one of them is actually his son, but he considers the other guy his son. So shout out to them, and I think they're boys. That would be dope for the culture. I would love to see it. At the same time, there's a 99.9% chance Travis goes 1, probably like a 20-30% chance Shador goes 2. Also, he's more team dependent, I feel like, and even then, teams could still wait. I think with Trav, it's just for New York in general, you need a star. Like whether he's gonna play wide receiver or cornerback, you just need an inflection of talent.
For
like
them, it needs to be corner.
Yeah, for sure. I think I think he's more profiled as a corner. I think he has more corner skills. I think his wide receiver.
Tay Banks, man.
Yeah, I think wide receiver. He's just super athletic and super talented.
If they get Travis Hunter, that would really be great for the secondary.
I
Hunter,
agree.
Drew Phillips, I think they have something going there.
But
so
what about Malik and Travis?
How about both?
that would be great
because
too.
he said he's playing both.
He's playing on offense.
Yeah.
He's not going to play all the snaps, but
No,
he's
They'll
got to
get
play
packages, maybe like a play.
10 snaps.
No, he's playing.
15?
He's already made it. He's playing both.
I need him on some, at least third
He's
downs.
gonna be Ohtani of football.
Fourth quarter, I
I'd be
need.
so moved.
But to answer the question, should Brian Daboll get fired? I don't think so. I think he's a good coach. I think there's not many good coaches like him in the league. And I think what he did in 2022, you can't forget.
Never forget.
I get the last 2 years haven't been great. But they did have a good draft this past season. Everything's not on them. I do think you give him another year because I think there's an opportunity here where if you do, and this is ownership, Shador to New York has been a big thing. We've seen that in the media. If you do give him another year and they do go quarterback, like let's say they reach for the stars and they go Cam Ward, right? If Cam Ward fucks up that first year, they're probably fired. So I do think they should take the best available player route so you don't attach yourself to a quarterback, because a lot of times we see these guys who attach themselves to a quarterback and then they get fired probably faster than the quarterback gets, released or traded or whatever that is, because a quarterback is very quick and fluid. You have like 3 years or 4 years on that rookie deal. You have to kind of build up that team. So I am on the route of if you do keep him for a year, you sit there and you pick best player available, you go up the best talent, and then you wait for next year's class or the year after's class. Keep getting these bridge guys if you can. If the opportunity presents himself and you need a quarterback, I understand taking him too. But I think they do end up getting fired. I think, I'm also on the side of New York should just go in fresh. Start with, you starting with a new quarterback. If you do want to go that way, you start with a new head coach. You just start fresh. Malik, he was a rookie this year, so you can kind of start fresh with him with a new coach too. And I think you kind of just with this new talent you have, I get Joe was the one who drafted these guys, but bringing somebody new, start the trend over, kind of get this refreshment in the building. But I don't think he deserves to get fired because I do think he's a really good coach, and I don't think Vrabel's thinking of New York. I don't think Belichick is thinking of New York. You can try to, get Dion.
I can hear Belichick in New York.
I can hear it too,
I
but
can hear Brian Flores.
Yeah, that would be cool too, but then who are you gonna bring in to kind of fit his personality? Dion sounds dope as hell, but Dion has stated multiple times that he wants to stay in college. He wants to coach in that route, and Colorado looks really good right now.
And they already got a 5-star quarterback going.
No, they do, and he's one of them dudes. I looked up his highlights. He's fucking OD. And then Colorado's really good. Like they were really good this year.
They're building something.
They are building something fast. So I think Dion is a very big. Build something, make it his legacy, then try on something new, which is why I don't think he'll go this year.
I think the one area where they can save their jobs is if they take a rookie quarterback. Because if you sign a bridge quarterback, you probably have to make the playoffs next year to keep your job. You can't sign
even
Sam
if you just
Darnold.
be really competitive, like 7-8 wins.
I think if you sign Sam Darnold and you win 7 games next season, I think it's unlikely. But if you draft Cam Ward or Shador, you're showing you can develop them. By the end of the season, we're looking at them like, you know what? That's your franchise quarterback, right? Like they go out there and, they don't got to set the record for, have a Justin Herbert like you or anything. But as long as they go out there and show that they belong in this league, if they're competitive then they could at least sell to ownership. Like, listen, we just drafted a quarterback. It was his rookie season. We were competitive. We won 7 games. There were 4 games that were 1-score games. Next season, he's going into year 2. We could add another weapon here or there. You could sell them that we're building something here. I feel like if you get Darnold or you get one of these bridge quarterbacks, there's a lot of pressure next season, fair or not, to be competitive and make the playoffs.